I grew up ugly. Not disfigured, not disabled. Just profoundly, consistently ugly, in a way that made me invisible to half the population, and pitied by the other half. I wasn't bullied much because I wasn't even worth the effort. I was just overlooked. Girls treated me like furniture. When you grow up like that, you realize something pretty early on. If you're not attractive, you have to be the funny guy, the genius, or the guy with money. Money seemed like the easiest fix. It doesn't change your face, obviously, but it changes how people look at you. It buys respect. It buys a buffer. So when I was 19, I was obsessed with getting rich. I did not care how. I just needed leverage so people would actually respect me. One night, sitting alone in my bedroom, I made a quiet, desperate deal with myself. I decided that if I could not be handsome, I would be rich. Rich enough that it would not matter. That is how I got into trading. It was not a dream or a passion. I saw it as a solution. I got lucky, or unlucky, depending on how you look at it. A friend I had not seen in years ran into me one day. We talked, and he mentioned that he was into futures trading. Honestly, I barely understood what he was talking about at first, but the second I realized he was making serious money doing it, and that there was no boss, no interview, and no one looking at my face trying to decide whether I fit the company culture, I was interested. I told him to put me on, and I took it seriously, painfully seriously, like my life depended on it, because honestly, it felt like my life actually did depend on it. I committed to it in a way that surprised even me. I spent the next 2 years living like a ghost. My life was embarrassingly small. I worked the night shift at a logistics warehouse. I would get home around 6:30 a.m., shower, eat, sleep maybe 4 hours, wake up, drink a massive energy drink, study the charts, and put every spare dollar into my trading account. Then I would lose the money and do it all over again. Basically, I did nothing but work, study charts, backtest, read trading books, lose money, and repeat. I did not go out. I did not date. I did not exist outside of price action, my job, my trade journals, and my family. Even weekends looked exactly like weekdays. I was not trying to be a genius. I just did not want to be broke forever. I believed that if I could make real money, I would finally be taken seriously. Maybe not handsome, but at least respected. I lost money. A lot. Every time I blew an account, I would sit on the floor of my bedroom and literally shake with rage. But I could not quit. Quitting meant accepting that I would be the ugly guy working at a warehouse forever. So I kept going. Then, early last year, things started clicking. Slowly, consistency showed up like a quiet house guest. I had my first profitable month. I made around $2,400. Then $4,000. Then I randomly hit an $8,000 month because the market was trending beautifully. That was my first real win. Within a year, I had quit my job and was making more money than anyone expected from me. More money than I had ever touched in my life. I moved out of my parents' place and got a nice apartment downtown. I fixed my wardrobe. I started taking care of myself for the first time in my adult life. At my best, I was going to the gym consistently. I had about $60,000 in trading accounts and another $40,000 saved up. I felt untouchable. And for the first time in my life, people looked at me differently. Not warmer, just more carefully, with a little more respect. Not because I suddenly became handsome, but because money smooths out rough edges. And I loved it, probably too much, because somewhere along the way, trading stopped being a skill and became my identity, my proof, my defense against ever becoming that overlooked guy again. Losing money no longer felt like a setback. It felt like being exposed. That was when things started changing. I began trading not to make money, but to protect an image. I sized up when I should not have. I took trades I did not need. I broke rules I had written myself. Every loss felt personal, like the market was trying to undo me on purpose. But the truth is, the market does not care. It does not care why you trade. It does not care what you lacked growing up. It does not care how badly you want respect. It does not reward hunger, and it does not punish insecurity. It just reflects you exactly as you are. And when you bring unhealed insecurity into a place that demands emotional neutrality, it will collect its fees over and over again. I did not lose everything, but I did lose the illusion that money would finally make me enough. Trading gave me freedom, yes, but it also forced me to face something I had avoided for years. No amount of profit can permanently fix how you see yourself. If you use money to escape insecurity, you will eventually trade scared, trade angry, trade desperate, and the market will wait patiently for that moment. This is not a success story. It is not a failure story either. It is just the truth of what can happen when you ask money to heal wounds it was never meant to touch. Two years ago, I made a mistake that has basically controlled every day of my life since. So my dad still thinks he has his money in a trading account. He doesn't. There's like 75 cents in there, and I've been lying to him about it for 2 years. Let me just start from the beginning, because if I don't explain how I got here, you're just going to think I'm a terrible person. Maybe I am, but I wasn't trying to be. It all started with me wanting my dad to be proud of me. Back then, I was in university. I was obsessed with trading. Every spare moment I had was spent watching charts, watching YouTube videos, reading forums, and convincing myself I was learning a skill that could change my life. I wasn't making any real money. I was trading on a demo account. For anyone who doesn't know, a demo account lets you trade with fake money. The profits look real on the screen, but none of it actually exists. I treated it seriously, though. Every day I would open positions, track my results, and take screenshots of trades I was proud of. I was doing well on the demo account. At least I thought I was. I turned a fake $10,000 into almost $60,000 over a few months. Looking back, most of it was probably luck, mixed with insanely reckless lot sizes, but I didn't understand that then. So one evening, I was sitting in the living room, going through charts on my laptop when my dad came in. He leaned over my shoulder, saw the screen, saw the balance, saw the percentage gains, and then he went quiet for a second. Then he asked, "What are you always looking at on that thing?" And something in me just lit up. My dad doesn't usually get curious about what I'm doing, so I told him everything: the technical analysis, the setups, risk management, why I entered certain trades. I was performing, honestly. I wanted him to be impressed. Then I showed him the account history. Weeks of profits, green everywhere, and he looked genuinely impressed. He looked at me the way I had always wanted him to look at me. Then he asked, "Wait, are those profits real? Is that your real money?" I didn't say yes. I didn't explicitly tell him it was a demo account. I didn't correct him when he assumed it was real either. I just kind of smiled awkwardly and kept talking. I knew exactly what he thought, and I let him believe it. Why didn't I just say it was a demo? Honestly, because he was proud of me. And that doesn't happen often with my dad. Not because he's a bad dad. He's not. He's a great dad. He's just not the kind of guy who hands out compliments easily. And in that moment, I had his full attention. He was genuinely impressed. I just couldn't bring myself to deflate it. I told myself it didn't really matter. I was going to go live soon anyway. the results would basically be the same, so I kept enjoying the moment. What followed was about a month of conversations that I cringe thinking about now. He started asking questions: how markets worked, how people made consistent money, how much risk was involved, whether I thought I could do it long term. And every time, I answered honestly. I genuinely knew a lot by then. I answered in a way that technically wasn't a lie, but made me sound more experienced than I really was. I talked about market structure, economic news, risk to reward ratios. None of it was made up. What I didn't mention was that every dollar I had supposedly made existed only inside a demo account. And because I never corrected that misunderstanding, the conversation kept moving further in the wrong direction. Then he asked me what kind of returns people normally made. I remember explaining that most traders lose money, that it was difficult, that there were no guarantees, which is ironic, because I was being honest. The problem was that all those honest answers were sitting on top of one dishonest foundation. I was talking like someone with experience, not someone who had never risked $1 of real money. Looking back, I think that's what fooled both of us. I knew enough to sound credible, but not enough to understand how little I actually knew. A week or two passed before he brought it up again. This time it wasn't about trading in general. It was about money. He had been talking for a while about savings that were just sitting in an account, earning almost nothing. He asked what I thought he should do with it. I gave my opinion. We talked. Then at some point, he asked whether I would ever consider managing money professionally one day. I laughed and said I wasn't anywhere near that level. But even then, I still didn't tell him the account he saw was a demo account. That omission was doing all the damage. Because from his perspective, he was talking to someone who had already been doing it successfully. I guess every day I let that misunderstanding sit there, it became harder to correct. Then, I think the next day or so, he brought it up again. And this time, it wasn't a general conversation. He told me he wanted to give me money to manage for him. $20,000. He said it really calmly, like it was already decided in his head. He had seen the results. He had listened to me talk about it for weeks. He trusted me. He said he would rather have the money working than sitting there doing nothing. And I should have said no. Obviously. The answer is so obvious looking back that it's almost hard to believe I didn't say it. But what I actually felt in that moment was this. This is my chance. My chance to go live with real money, do exactly what I had been doing on the demo account, and prove it was real. Any profit I make, we split it. He takes half. I take half. We both make money. That's genuinely what I thought. So I took the money, I funded the account, and I lost it all in less than a week. I won't go through every trade, because honestly, the details don't matter. It's the same story as every blown account you've ever read about. I got stopped out. I got emotional. I stopped following my rules. I started trading bigger to recover faster. And by Friday, the account had 75 cents in it. That's it. $20,000 turned into 75 cents in 6 days. I remember just sitting there staring at the screen for a long time. My brain couldn't process it. And that night I didn't sleep at all. I just lay there running the same loop over and over. What do I do? What are my actual options here? Do I call him in the morning and just say it? By the time it got light, I had made my decision. I called him that weekend, and I said the most ridiculous thing I've ever said in my life. To this day, I don't know where it came from. I told him the market was experiencing extreme institutional volatility, and that I was temporarily locking the funds into a secure, low-yield, non-tradable bond structure to protect his capital while I finished my final university exams. I told him I wouldn't touch it, or look at it until after graduation, so I could focus on my degree. Even typing those words now makes me cringe. I was in my 20s. I'd never worked in finance. I'd never managed money professionally. I had no idea whether a non-tradable bond structure was even a real thing. I was just stringing together financial-sounding words and hoping they sounded intelligent enough that he wouldn't ask questions. And somehow he believed me. He said he was proud of me for recognizing the distraction. He still asks occasionally how his investment is doing, and I just give vague answers about letting it sit. That was 2 years ago. I graduated a year ago. Since the day that account hit 75 cents, my life has been a living hell. I haven't stopped trading. In fact, it has become a psychotic obsession. I took out a student loan I didn't need, worked a retail job under the table, and spent every waking hour trying to trade my way back up to that $20,000 baseline before he asks for the money back. But when you trade with desperation, the market smells it on you. Every dollar I scrape together to fund a new account gets chewed up and spit out because I'm forced to take insane risks to chase a massive payout. I am trapped in a loop of financial self-destruction. I am living on borrowed time. Every phone call from him makes my heart stop. Every text message makes my blood run cold. I know that eventually, the day will come when he asks me to liquidate the account and wire the cash back to his bank. And when that day comes, I don't know what I'm going to do. I have 75 cents, a mountain of secret debt, and a father who thinks his son is a hero. I quit trading. Yes, I've permanently stopped trading. I stopped because there's nothing left in me that believes I deserve to continue. I'm crying while I type this. I've been crying on and off for months. My father died last year and I killed him. Not directly, but I took away his chance to live, and that's the same thing. It started a couple of months back. My dad had just retired after 40 years at the factory, and he received his pension all at once in one payment. He asked me to help him keep the money somewhere safe. My father trusted me with his pension. He trusted me with everything technical in his life because I was the one who handled the things that confused him, like his emails, his bank app, his online forms. I handled paperwork for him. He didn't understand them. He was old school. He had never handled that much money all at once before. He was worried about scams, worried about inflation, worried about relatives constantly asking for loans once they heard he had been paid. He wanted it out of sight until when he really needed it. To him, I was just his son who understood numbers and computers. I told him I would place it somewhere conservative and liquid, and the stupid me took the money and gambled it in the market. I don't even want to go into how I lost the money, because anytime I think about it, I feel like taking my own life. Honestly. After I lost the money, I couldn't tell him. I kept thinking about how I would find a way to fix it, get another loan, sell everything I owned, work 3 jobs. Somehow I would replace it before he noticed. Some days I even thought about just disappearing. A few weeks later, I got a call from my mom. She said she was at the hospital with my dad. She said he collapsed in his bathroom. When I got to the hospital, the doctor said he suffered a massive ischemic stroke caused by years of unmanaged high blood pressure. He survived, but he couldn't speak anymore. He couldn't move the right side of his body. The doctor said he needed intensive rehabilitation, speech therapy, occupational therapy. The hospital bills started coming immediately. His insurance covered some of it, but not enough, not even close. The neurologist told me about a specialized treatment program that could significantly improve his chances of recovery. It wasn't experimental, just expensive. I remember standing there thinking, this is exactly what the pension was for. That money would have covered everything without panic, without borrowing. I watched my father lie in that hospital bed, unable to speak, and I couldn't escape the thought that I had taken away his safety when he needed it most. I failed him at the moment trust mattered most. When my mom asked about the money, I had to tell her. I couldn't look at her, I just said it, that the money was gone, that I had lost it trading. She didn't yell, she just sat down and put her face in her hands. That was somehow worse than any anger could have been. We scraped together what we could. We borrowed from relatives and took loans. My sister dropped out for the semester to work. We got him some treatment, but not what he needed. The doctors tried, but without the full course of therapy, without the surgery they recommended, his condition deteriorated. He tried so hard. I watched him struggle to relearn how to swallow, how to move his fingers. He would get frustrated and exhausted, and I would see him crying silently because he couldn't even curse his own body anymore. He developed pneumonia 2 weeks later and died. My father died without knowing what I did, or maybe he knew. I don't know which thought is worse. I hate myself every day. I replay it all, wondering how I could be so stupid, so selfish. I was supposed to protect him, not gamble his life away. The regret is this constant ache, like I've got a hole inside that won't fill. I can't forgive myself. My mom doesn't talk to me unless she has to. My sister hasn't answered my calls in months now. I don't blame them. Trading feels irrelevant now. I don't feel anger toward the market. I feel exhaustion. I crossed a line I can't uncross. There's no amount of discipline, profitability, or redemption arc that fixes that. I don't believe I deserve forgiveness, not from myself, maybe not from anyone. The only thing I still hope for is that my father forgives me wherever he is. Please God, I pray he forgives me. I'm so sorry, Dad.